Hello everyone, welcome to my fourth Blender tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to use different cameras for your games. Alright, so here you have this file that I provided you with. You should see this download link, the download link in the description. If you press P, the character has some basic controls and a jump. I made this character a while ago. I'm not using it right now, so we're going to use this for the tutorial. So here we have our camera. Right click to select. We want to reset this to its original location and then move it from there. So I'm going to press N so that we can see the transform properties. Location, I'm going to reset the location, set it all to 0. So now it's at its original location. Actually, you could do this with the hotkey for this is Alt G, and for rotation you can reset it from here, but you can also press Alt R for rotation and G is for location, as you might have known. So we're going to drag this back. What I like to do is I like to have a split screen here that shows me the camera view so that I can see what the camera is going to be viewing as I move it. So I'm going to move this back because this shows you which direction it's pointing at. It's currently pointing towards the opposite direction of the player, so I'm going to rotate this on the Z-axis 180 degrees. There we go. Rotate it on the X-axis, RX, and here we can see our player. Now you might say this is way too close. You can edit this at the you can move it farther, but you can also edit it in the properties. Go to your camera properties. Right here at lens, just drag this back, and as you can see, it zooms in. Also, as you might notice, right over here, the camera would get squished, it would contract. So if you do that too much, it's not going to look too good. As you can see over here, it's not looking too good right now. So you might want to keep it casual. Okay, don't overdo it. If you want it to move back further, you just move it back. That's just fine. So the first camera type that I'm going to show you is the parent camera. The mesh or the armature of the character would be the parent of the camera, and the way it works is the camera would follow every movement that the character makes. So let's just select the camera first, and then select the mesh of the character or the armature so that it would be the active mesh, and then hit Control P. So it should say set parent to object, and now as you might see, there's a dotted line there. That's the link. So now if you move the mesh, the camera moves with it. Now obviously the mesh is parent to the armature, so if you actually move the armature, the camera should move with it. So now, since we're in camera view over here, I'm going to switch to textured mode. Control up arrow to make it larger and hit P, and there we can play. As you can see, it follows the exact rotation and movement of the character. This is good for certain types of games. It's not the best kind of camera. I don't really like it that much. It doesn't work with games where you have your character or your vehicle or whatever set to ragdoll, because when it flips over, then the camera's going to flip over as well, and it's going to have that weird effect of like it's going to be spinning around all over, so you don't want that to happen. So that's the first type of camera, the parent camera. Now we want to release the camera from the parent, so we're going to select the camera and Alt P. That's going to remove any links it has. Now the next type of camera that I'm going to show you is the camera that uses the camera logic brick. So I'm going to switch this to logic editor and add an always sensor and controller and a camera actuator. So keep the always as it is. Everything should stay the same except over here. This is the camera object. So this object is what the camera is actually going to follow. So you might want to set this to your character's rig or the mesh. As I said, does make a difference as long as they move together. Let's say we're going to set this to y-axis. This is the height, so I'm going to put this as, let's say 4. Minimum distance is 5. Maximum is 10, let's say. And it might be different because I'm used to the old Blender. So actually right over here, hit P. As you can see, it follows the player. It has a pretty nice effect. It doesn't follow the exact rotation. If the character turns though, like for example over here, it would actually turn to face the player. As you can see, it moves farther here. That's the 10 that we set, and the closest distance is 5. So it wouldn't be way too close to the player. As you can see, when I move it over here, it's actually going to move a bit. So that's a pretty nice camera. Pretty basic. Easy to use. Also, there's another type of camera. It's also a parent camera, except it's different from the regular parent. So I'm just going to remove all the logic here. We don't need logic bricks for this one. Okay. Let's drag this down. So this is called a vertex parent. Basically what the vertex parent does is it copies the motion of your object. It doesn't copy the actual rotation. So, and you need a mesh to do this. So this has to be done with the character mesh. It can't be done with, I don't think it can be done with the rig. You could try though. So select the camera first, mesh second, hit tab, your camera should stay selected. Switch to vertex selection and select any vertice. Doesn't have to be any specific vertice, so I'm just going to go with that, I guess. Control P. It should say make vertex parent. Click on that, and now you see the link again. And it's linked to that actual vertice. So now if we test this out, as you can see, it moves like a parent. And now if you move your character, it's actually not going to rotate with the character. It's just going to be following the location. So that's good for 2D games, 2D side-scrollers. If you have 3D movement in a 2D game, some games have that. It's a pretty basic camera, as you can see. You can also add controls to it using the same vertex parent. You can add controls to it so that it would actually, the player can actually rotate the camera. So I'm just going to show you how to do that. For this, you'll need to remove the link, so Alt P. And if you move the camera, you'll notice that if you remove the link, it's going to move a bit, and you might not want that to happen. So I'm just going to hit Control Z. If you move it, especially with parent, it could reset the size and location, which might mess you up a bit. So what you want to do is Control P and keep clear and keep transformation, which means that it's going to stay at the same size, same location. That's just one side note that I wanted to point. Okay, so now we're going to move on to that that control thing that I talked to you about. I'm just going to reset the 3D cursor. Just kind of getting off topic there. I'm going to add an empty, just because empties... Let's add it from here. I'm not sure what that empty keying set is. It might be the same. So here's our empty. This isn't actually a mesh, so it takes up, I think, less memory than a mesh. I'm going to go to properties. I'm going to change how it looks. So here it's set to arrows. You can set it to sphere, circle, whatever you want. I'm just going to go with sphere. You want to center this. Maybe not perfectly. You might want to center it perfectly to make it have a better effect, but it doesn't really matter. And now what you want to do is you want to set the camera. You want to make this empty the parent of the camera. So now the camera is going to follow this empty. It's going to follow its rotation and its location. And you want to set this empty to be the vertex. You're going to select the mesh tab, and you want to make this mesh the vertex parent of the empty. So make vertex parent. So now the empty is going to follow the it's not going to follow the rotation of the character, but the camera is going to follow the rotation of the empty. This enables us to add, I'm just going to switch to logic editor. This enables us to add controls to the empty itself. So I'm going to add a keyboard sensor. 2 keyboard sensors actually. 2 and, or doesn't matter, controllers. And 2 motion actuators. Yeah, okay, that's fine. So connect those, connect each one to its own controller and actuator. So so the character, as you might have noticed, moves with the WASD. So we want the camera to rotate using the arrow keys. So I'm just going to click on key right here, press a key, right arrow, press a key, left arrow. So now we can set the rotation. Let's set this to -3 and +3. And now let's test this out. As you can see, same as the vertex parent, it doesn't follow the rotation of the character. Now if you press right and left, you can actually rotate the camera. The controls are inverted, doesn't really matter. You could just change that. Change this -3 to a 3, and the 3 to a -3. Now it's fine. So that's it for this camera tutorial. I hope you enjoyed this and found it beneficial. Subscribe for more tutorials.